Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Talking Triathlon, a podcast where Tim Ford and James Bale get together to talk about all things triathlon. It's in the title. I'm sure you've listened before. Maybe you haven't. If you haven't, welcome to your first ever episode. As I said, I'm Tim. That's James. Jimbo, how you going, mate?
Yeah, I'm all right, mate. I'm all right. It's There's a strange dichotomy, isn't there, between the last podcast we recorded going into a weekend of, the WTCS kicking off, the landing of the T100 and all the expectation to where we find ourselves now.
It's just so typically triathlon, isn't it? We joke often about the curse of the podcast and about how, again, if you're new here, or maybe you haven't been listening for that long, or you've just forgotten that there's this bad habit of, I don't know whether it's the fact that we record on a Friday morning for me or a Thursday evening for you, or whether we just miss the time, but things always tend to happen immediately after we've recorded or published the podcast. And this week it was, or last week, or whatever time is a flat circle, I'm not feeling well. Yeah, they cancelled Abu Dhabi like hours after we
Like
recorded the
immediately
podcast.
we published and they went, "Oh, they're out.
Oh,
Cancel it."
no, it was even before we published. I had to put it out knowing the race was cancelled. Like I think I put in the show notes, "Hey, we know the we know the race got cancelled that we spoke about for 25 minutes, but it's still a good listen, I hope." But yeah, Abu Dhabi got cancelled, and then we had the T100, which I think we are going to get into because I have a lot of thoughts, and I know that a lot of people have a lot of thoughts. And then I think the other thing I want to touch on this week is the new Ironman rules that have been sort of
Mm.
released
Mm.
around aerodynamics and fairings and aero bottles. And again, just a good time in the sport of triathlon. Everything's coming up rosy at the moment. But yeah, you
How are
said,
you, mate? Anyway,
yep. I'm here. That's the main thing. It's been one of those weeks. Yeah, I think I just pushing through and sort of yesterday realized, yeah, okay, I'm not that well. So I've got lots of drugs in me. I've got lots of coffee in me, and I'm gonna power through the next hour as we talk all about triathlon. And again, if you guys appreciate the effort we put into powering through and talking all things triathlon, you can head to patreon.com/talking triathlon. Get access to a bonus monthly episode as well as the WhatsApp group and the Facebook group. We had a number of new signups this week. So to all of our new patrons, thank you very much. Welcome along. It's good to have you. Yeah, we will probably yeah, this is going to be similar, I think. This one might be a bit similar to a bonus episode because I think we have some opinions on things that are not super popular, or I'm already nervous about this week's episode a little bit, mate, to be honest. Um, just because of
objective,
the,
mate.
yeah, I'm gonna,
Just be objective. That's all we can do.
yeah, it doesn't seem to
All we
matter on the
can do
internet,
is,
does it? Because remember, you either love something or you hate something. They're the two
yeah,
options on the internet.
yeah, yeah.
So if you want to hear about things we really hate, Patreon's the place to go. But no, let's I mean, I don't really have a lot to say about Abu Dhabi, to be honest. It's
What is there
disappointing.
to say? I mean,
Yeah.
look, it was strange. The announcement came out. They were cancelling it because of unforeseen weather or foreseen weather, expected
Adverse.
bad weather,
Adverse.
adverse weather. That's the word
Yeah.
I'm looking for. Adverse weather. And I had athletes texting me pictures of the sunshine and
Mm.
stuff, going, "Well, it's not fucking raining, and we're only meant to be racing in a few hours." But then, to be honest, the heavens did open there, didn't they? And then we had pictures being sent to us of flooded areas, and it didn't look like an environment you could race in. So, unfortunately, nature stepped in and stopped us getting that first race of the WTS season. Unfortunately, from our perspective as fans, we didn't get to see the race. But if you're one of those athletes that's yet to qualify for the Olympics, tuning up to try and find that final qualification spot, it's really thrown a spanner in the works, hasn't it?
That's the fascinating thing for me is the implications on the qualification because we know that it's not just about athletes earning their spot to the Olympics. It's about nations securing the third place, the second place positions on their teams. There's real implications for this result, not to mention the cost and the expense and the time and the stress for all the athletes, peaking for a race that really matters and then finding this out sort of, day of. Yeah,
Yeah, and the travel, I mean, just getting to Abu Dhabi, it's not like it's down the road, is it, for most people?
I did appreciate Hayden putting up a post being like 17 hours to get to Miami. Hey, T100, can I get a wild card? That's well done, Hayden. Very, very good. Very, very good.
Christian did the same thing, didn't he?
I think Hayden called out Christian. Hayden said, "Come on, Christian, let's do this thing."
Ah,
Uh, but yeah, I mean, look, it is what it is. It sucks. We've got
it
Yokohama and
sucks. Yeah, it sucks.
Cagliari coming
I
up.
was really
So
looking forward to that race. I was I had it scheduled to just be playing as I made my way through the day.
Well, I don't I know I asked you, but we did put this in the Patreon group, and I basically said like which event are people more excited about, the T100 Miami or the WTCS? And again, you said it before, trying to be objective, like just triathlon fan hat on. The WTCS event was the one that I was really keen for. I was definitely curious about the T100. Did I say two? Abu Dhabi was the race I was very interested in because of the implication. The T100, super keen to see it, really like excited for it, but I think with the gravity of this year and I guess the 4D chess that's happening with selections and things like that, that was definitely where I was very excited to watch that race. Plus, again, it's like a much shorter viewing experience than committing to long course race viewing. But yeah, unfortunately, that's what it is. It sucks. But we can now talk about the T100 Miami.
Do you want to talk about the T1 or do you want to do you want to knock the Ironman rule change on the head first?
No, I want to talk about that later.
Okay.
I want to see how I'm feeling after we do the T100, and then it might
All
frame
right.
my thoughts around the T100. But let's talk about the racing first, because I think,
Yeah.
before we get into the actual
I
thoughts,
mean,
I think the racing itself, we saw some incredible performances.
we
There's a
did.
lot from a performance point of view that I really, really enjoyed. Some things that I'm sort of scratching my head about. But I think what we have to do is give a lot of athletes a lot of credit for coming and putting on a show, because I think they did an
Yeah,
exceptional
totally.
job.
You slept through most of the men's race, didn't you?
I
All of
woke
it?
up. No, I woke up and I mean, it was 7 a.m. I think I was up on Sunday morning, which is a sleep in for me. And they were just off the bike, I believe.
Okay, so you saw the run. You saw the
Uh,
men's run.
uh, did I? I may have. Anyway, we'll get to that. I'm aware of the run. Let's put it that way. I've since started. I'll be honest. I've since started watching the race. I was on the trainer a few times this week, and I've had the race
Okay.
going while I've been on the trainer.
Yeah, I mean, I watched from the very first moment the broadcast started in the afternoon here because I had the races coming thing. As soon as it appeared on my laptop, I watched the broadcast from start to finish, up until part way the very start of the women's bike because I just started getting, when you're just zoning out tired and I could not stay awake anymore. So I just left you all to it. And you'd taken over the management of the Patreon group from me at that point. So I left it in your stewardship, let's say. Um, I enjoyed the men's race. I enjoyed the racing. I enjoyed watching it. Um, I enjoyed the way it worked out. I liked the the swim was fast. The bike was interesting with Magnus chasing through the field with Alistair um off the front with who was he off the front with?
Mathis
Yeah,
Magerier.
that's it. Yeah, yeah,
Never
yeah, yeah.
gonna ever forget how to pronounce that name ever.
No. And and those two working together, but well, not really working together. Alistair kind of sitting behind Mattis, building a lead, but then with Magnus coming through, and then Alistair attacking on the run. I enjoyed watching that. It's kind of like
He's the Jonas
he's
Schomburg of long
like
course racing these days.
yeah, and it's like he's got a finite amount of energy, and it's
About
getting a little
about
bit more
about 10
every
kilometers. About 10
yeah,
kilometers of energy.
it's getting a little bit more every time. But you're watching him, and I was like, oh, his foot stroke looks a bit different. It looks like he's eased back a little bit. He's not quite as up on his toes. Maybe he's going to make this one. But you can tell, man. You can tell you're watching him. As soon as that change happens, you're like, nah, he ain't going to make it. It's like a weird, you can see his body change. And then obviously watching Magnus come through and take the win. Um,
See,
yeah, I enjoyed the race.
I want to give a huge shout out to the athlete that I think had the performance of the day. And that's actually Sam Long, because
Oh,
he made that race fascinating for
yeah.
me. Because otherwise, again, it was some great performances, but yeah, I guess it sort of was a bit of a like, okay, here we go again. But no, like
Yeah,
I think
once Alistair had blown up and started going back down through the field, Magnus had established a lead. Um, the only point of interest from that point on was Sam Long coming up through the field like an Exocet missile.
Yeah, again, I just think, fuck, I'm learning how to swim, Sam Long. Come on, mate. Like,
Yeah.
even just a minute. Yeah, it's. I mean, there's a okay. Let's talk about the actual race because I think there's a lot to discuss. Firstly, Rico Bergen 100% has made like he belongs in this. And how I look at this, I look at the athletes that actually had an impact on the race, actually made something happen during the during the actual race. Rico let out that swim and attacks the bike. You could see him grimacing, mate. Like I love the
Yeah.
raw, like
With his road helmet on. I loved it.
and I just love the fact that you can tell that. And look, I don't know. I'm just assuming here, but you can tell he's like, fucking hell, I'm the 70.3 world champion. I need to be able. I can't just fucking meander my way through this race and finish 10th. And like, no, I have to
Mm.
actually participate. And I fucking loved it. I loved every time they had him on camera, just the grimace or the effort. And I thought he was again amazing. Like made a real impact.
Yeah. And
Just
then
like
and then when they did he did have to pay the piper, and he fell back down through the field. He didn't fall back down through the field in an embarrassing manner.
no.
It wasn't like he just completely capitulated and ended up walking.
Yeah, I think, and again, looking at how young he is, like I'm very excited about his season. Like Rico has got me excited about the T100 season. These are the sort of things I'm looking at. Alistair Brownlee, like fucking hell, he did what I knew he was going to do. I was at no point surprised it happened. I knew it was going to happen. I wished it didn't. Part of me, the voices in my head said maybe, and I went, shut up. You know what happens. Don't allow yourself to get excited. But again, he fucking made it exciting. Like he doesn't just sit
Mm.
back and participate. He fucking rips it. He takes it to them. He adds something to the race because my biggest issue with watching these non-drafting races, and no disrespect to Magnus, he's an incredible athlete, but he just does his thing. Like it's not a race.
Yeah.
It's just a,
You
it's like a
don't
measured
feel that
effort.
Magnus is brilliant. He's a brilliant bloke. He's a brilliant athlete. Astounding. But you don't feel like he's racing anyone but the clock.
Exactly.
And
Like
he's like, he is going to finish in that time, irrespective of where everybody else is around him, you
mm.
know?
That's yeah. So again, that's why I like someone like Alistair who's like, fucking let's have a go, right? And again, Sam Laidlow, same thing. Like has a swing, completely capitulated. Like it's funny actually how he just sort of went backwards as well. But I like that they're trying. Like this is the like I would rather have a Laidlow or an Alistair have a crack at the win, fall to pieces, rather than some of the guys who finish in I don't know 12th that you don't see. The only time we saw half of these athletes was when they got lapped on the bike. Like
Yeah. Didn't see anything from Ben Canute, for example, or Leon
I
Chevillet.
know Leon had a
Chevillet.
crash. I saw
Did he?
him off the
Oh,
bike
he
and he
did.
was
Yeah.
he was fucked up actually. So I
Mm,
think I mean we know Leon is much better athlete than that. His swim is
mm.
a bit shit. But yeah, I really respected and appreciated the guys having a go. Like that's really what you really want to see. Uh, so yeah, I think again, Magnus fucking masterclass, mate. Like the guy is just the Terminator. Not the most exciting athlete to watch race, unfortunately. It's just, but it doesn't need to be, right? When you're that measured and you know every single fucking percentile and gram and power watt and everything, like that's what you see. You see this incredible masterclass performance,
And
which
his
is what it was.
bike looks so fucking nice, didn't it?
Yeah, yeah. It's just it
I
just
love that bike.
it doesn't look like he's just it's mind blowing, right? The way that he can just fucking go. Like, I saw him make that move on Yuri Kulin, and Yuri. Everyone's talking about how good a bike rider Yuri is.
Shout out to Yuri being the fastest in T1.
Yeah, well
Good
done.
work, mate.
Yeah, again, when you got to, we all know what people say about Yuri Kulin, and to see sort of Magnus make that like that was something, right? But yeah, I think the athletes, the things that I enjoyed or have enjoyed watching so far, have been those guys that had a bit of a go. I am. We need theatre. We need this, we're going to talk about this, but yeah, they were the sort of things but I thought Sam Long, yeah, exceptional, exceptional
Shout out to
performance.
Sam Long for being fastest in. No, sorry, it was Sam Laidlow's fastest in T2, not Sam Long.
Mate, there you go. Because Sam, I heard them say, and I actually didn't know this. I've always, because you see Sam Laidlow doing the calf socks in T1, and
Yeah.
I've always just assumed it was a aerodynamics thing, right? We know that the calf sleeves make, fucking, I don't know, 0.63 watt. I don't actually know the numbers. But I think it was Jan was saying on the broadcast, he actually does that for an injury reason, that he actually has to wear the socks to prevent a calf foot problem that he has. I didn't know that.
Oh,
So I thought
I did not know that.
that was fascinating. I mean, yeah, I don't really have much more to say about the men's race, to be honest. It was
No, Sam Long's run was incredible. Obviously, West had the fastest run of the day, but he was too far back to really make an impact, finishing in seventh. But yeah, I mean, as the race wore on, like you say, Sam Long was the only real point of interest, with every other runner kind of settling into their positions and feeding their way back down through the field.
do you have the
I'm glad
results?
Alistair Brownlee didn't totally capitulate and finished in the top five. I'm glad that he didn't end up walking. We didn't see him limping. It looks like
Fitness.
he might run his way into form as the season goes on.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Do you have the results there? I'd be curious to, because I know the top three off the top of my head.
Yeah, Magnus Ditlev in first, Sam Long in second, Matthias Magier in third, Yuri Kulin in fourth, Alistair Brown in fifth, Mino Koolhaas in sixth, Jason West in seventh, Daniel Beckergaard, Sam Laidlow, Aaron Royal, Rudy Von Berg, Rico Bergen, Leon Chevalier, Ben Canute, and then a series of DNFs.
Yeah. Rudy von Berg didn't even, might as well not have been there. Like, and this is kind of
Yeah,
the point I've made, and I've said this a lot in the past, right, around the PTO events, is that I think a problem that they have is they still sort of struggle. I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but I didn't see half those guys. They didn't add anything to the event. Like they might as well not have been there. Like
yeah,
in fact, and I know I put this online and some people disagreed, but I think the only thing they really did was actually to the detriment of the race, because I didn't like seeing the lapped athletes on the bike. It caused confusion.
yeah.
You could have removed that. You could take the bottom 10 out. Half of them didn't fucking finish anyway. Um, I think Yuri Kulin getting that place with the wildcard entry. Yeah, cool. Same with Nico Koolhaas. Both got wildcard entries. So, they're right up there. And again, it shows that the people really, there are athletes out there who haven't been given a contract this year who really want to race. They really want to do these series and not just go through the motions. They want to participate. They want to grab by the scruff of the neck and have a crack. But that's the men's race. Let's talk about the women's race, man, because this is the one I
The
did
women's
actually
race.
watch.
Now, I
Watch.
didn't make it to the end of this one, and I haven't reviewed it since, but I went to bed. Are we talking purely about the performances
Yeah,
right now?
I was just gonna say, I have a feeling you're not the only one who didn't make it to the end of the women's race, to be honest, mate.
So, performance wise,
Yes.
you're not going to believe me, but I was very close to picking India Lee for the win on
I
this
do
one.
believe I know I like we both know India Lee. I know how big a fan you are of India Lee. And
Mm,
I honestly wouldn't have been surprised. I genuinely wouldn't have been surprised if you picked her. I
yeah,
know, I
I was,
know, I know how, again, genuinely hand on heart here, listeners, I know how highly you think of India Lee. So,
yeah,
uh,
I um I was very, very pleased to see her take this win.
it's
I was
fantastic.
gutted because it had been in my head like, oh, pick her India, because I picked her for a couple of races last year and it
Yeah.
didn't happen. And I was like, no, I still believe. But then I thought, nah, not this one. But no, remarkable performance from India to come through and take that win. To
Show
see
everyone
her
how good she
overtaking
is.
Lucy Charles. Hey,
To show everybody how good she is, because we know she's an
exactly that.
exceptional athlete.
She really is. First race of the T100 series, to see her overtaking Lucy Charles-Barclay on the run. Amazing. Um, Unfortunate to see the DNFs that we saw. Really a shame to see Lucy Buckingham. Obviously, she had food poisoning before the race, so to see her sick by the side of the road. But for her to come out of the swim alongside Lucy, to be animating the race despite being ill and seeing what she could do, despite probably knowing that her stomach was going to evacuate things at some point that afternoon.
Again, my point, made an impact on the race. Great, she
Yeah.
was there. Didn't finish, which sucks. But when she was racing, she, like, added to the dynamic of the event, which is what I want to see.
How was your pick?
Ended up in an ambulance, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I picked Emma Pallant Brown, and I stand by it. I'm convinced that maybe she's going to work out the heat problem, but I did. Emma's husband Jared put up a post about Emma, and I messaged him being like, "Oh, she's my pick for this weekend." He just went, "Yeah, not in this heat." I went, "Don't say this to me, fuck, man. I've already put it on the podcast." I would
Already
have,
put it on the line.
I would have, I really thought Emma was probably going to have it, and then if it wasn't Emma, I really thought it would be Emma. Sorry, Tamara Jewett, who also DNF'd. I saw this course suiting the runners, right? And we've been proven wrong because it was those swim bikers, those people who sort of, I guess, the bike with Magnus, but it wasn't that traditional thing we've seen in the past with these super runners of the sport running through.
Well, I mean, India Lee, winner, did put the fastest run of the day in.
I'm sorry, what I mean to say is we're not used to seeing specifically the Tamaras or the Jasons
No,
running
agreed,
through the field.
agreed.
Yeah.
But we did the super runners of the event a DNF. So it
Mm,
might be it throws off that,
yeah.
we didn't see those fast runners running through the field to finish the event. Because India put in the fastest bike of the day plus the fastest run of the day,
It's impressive. It's
underlining,
so
yeah,
impressive.
underlining her quality. The fastest swim was Lucy Charles, just leading out Lucy Buckingham. Um, when the race was transpiring, when I went to bed, well, I didn't really go to bed. I had the laptop on with the race, and then I fell asleep and woke up, and something else was on, and I've just closed the laptop. So, um, it was looking like Lucy Charles was just had control of the race.
She looked really good, didn't she? She looked
She did. She was out the front on the bike, and I thought, well, this is,
done
I'm
deal.
willing to allow myself to go to sleep here because it's game over. I thought it was going to be a repeat of what we saw when she took the Ironman World Championship.
I think again, let's talk about the sort of performances that really had an impact on the race. And I can only really think of the two, unfortunately, or the
Mm,
three this time, which is Lucy, India, and Lucy. The rest of
yeah.
them, again, I don't really think featured that strong. Like we went back and we saw the Holly Lawrence, that Paula Finlay group. We saw them a bit, but it didn't. I don't know whether I I just feel like it was a little bit great performances, but from an actual watching a race point of view, it was a two-person show. Like really, it was a
Yeah,
two-person.
yeah. It was the race was at the front. The rest, this might be unfair because I know that everybody on that course was racing their heart out to get where they wanted to be. But from a perspective of being a spectator, it felt like the rest were just settling into position behind. I didn't feel like there was much jeopardy happening further down the field that was going to really impact the sort of top three, four, five.
The other obvious thing to talk about is Kat Matthews, who it sounds like has torn her calf. That was pretty hard to watch, if I'm honest. Seeing her pull up lame a little bit, and then have that moment with her and Mark, which I think I think I saw Mark put on Twitter saying, he was basically saying, yeah, it's March, you've torn your calf, like don't be ridiculous, sort of thing. Yeah, hopefully it's not too bad because I think she could have made a bit
Yeah,
of an
yeah,
impact on the race, but. Yeah,
indeed. All the best.
incredible. Just again, I just really want to emphasize how impressive India Lee was and how happy I am, and I know you are to see her get that result because
Stoked.
wonderful,
Genuinely,
wonderful athlete.
genuinely stoked.
Yeah, really wonderful person, wonderful athlete. We got to know her at sub 8 a couple of years ago when she was one of Cat's paces, and just she I've been at a few races with India, and she makes the people around her feel good. Like she's just a very
Yeah, yeah.
positive
She
force,
ex-
positive energy.
exudes loveliness, mate.
Yeah, wonderful human being. And again, it was just I love the emotion at the finish line too.
Mm,
It was great to see. And I don't know if you saw, but she has the lightning bolt on the back of her kit, and that's the Ziggy Stardust, David Bowie thing, because her
mm.
dog's name's Ziggy, and I liked that. I was like, that's really cool. That's really cool.
That is cool.
They're the performances. Now I think it's time to talk about the race itself because I know that this is something that has been a contentious subject this week and something that I've actually been quite keen to discuss with you. And um, yeah, I don't know really where to start here, mate. But like, how do you
I
see?
think I think I think I should start because I was there from the start,
Mhm.
you know, and and I thought the broadcast, um, the way it led up to the racing was quite good, you know. It was polished, it seemed professional. They had a solid team there who were who were part of the broadcast team, and it was I enjoyed the pre-race graphics and chat and interviews and stuff, and it felt like, oh, we're watching a proper sporting event here. And the race started, and I'm not going to say I enjoyed the race. I'm not going to say I didn't enjoy it, but that's from a triathlon fan perspective. The other half of my brain was going, if I was watching this for the first time, wondering whether I was going to be swept up in the hype of this sport that I've never seen before. It didn't capture any atmosphere. It felt a bit empty, a bit empty, very empty. You didn't feel like there was any enthusiasm in the environment. You didn't feel like there were any crowds because there really weren't. There was no sort of there wasn't any hype around it. It felt like a big empty place where these what looked like a small amount of athletes because of the size of America and the venue and the size of a speedway and the it's a big fucking thing to have a few athletes in with no crowds around them cheering them on. That was my first thought.
Mm. I'm gonna start a little bit differently this week because I saw an article came out this week from Try 24/7, and it was an interview with Macca about his thoughts of the race because Macca was laying some smack down on Twitter during the race, and I have to admit I kind of agreed with him. But I thought some points about the article I think are important to get out for us saying this as well is like people listening right now and people in the sport of triathlon need to hear this and understand that there's a huge difference between saying that something isn't good enough and saying that we hate it or we want it to fail or that we are against this. Like, I want this T100 series to work so much. Like,
Yeah, same.
it is everything I've ever wanted. It is everything I've ever wanted from a long course race here. I'm all for it. I say these things because I want them to be better, because I want it to be where I think it could be. And also the fact that we've had the head of the PTO, Chris Commode, come out and say that they're aiming to make this like one of the biggest sports products in the world. That's them. That's not us. That's not me forcing my unrealistic expectations on the PTO. That is what the PTO has come out and said. This is what we are going to do. This is what we are aiming for. So I am viewing what they're doing through that lens. That
Yeah,
is
through that
framing.
prism, mate.
That is what's framing my opinion of what they have done. And I watched this and I thought they fell incredibly short of that. Like,
So did I.
like I feel like I watched this, and I think I talked a few weeks ago where I was flicking through YouTube and a random 1995 Formula One race from St Kilda in Melbourne came up. Super young Chris, 22-year-old Chris McCormack was there, like the whole thing. The broadcast, like we're talking about a race that's what, 30, 29 years old, was comparable. In fact, I probably think that the 1995 race was maybe broadcast better than a race that's happened in 2024 in the new flagship series race. I feel like it's a step backwards, to be honest. I feel like that if you even compare this event to the Daytona event, the first PTO event that was on a racetrack, so I assume had to have the same crew because I believe one of the things we've heard is that they had to that when you do those events at those speedways, you have to use the NASCAR crew. It's a condition. The 2020 PTO, whatever that race was that Gustav won, that was I think a better broadcast than this event three and a bit years later. What do you think?
Yeah, look, I'm on the same page as you. I think, like you say, they're selling us. They want to make this the biggest sporting property in the world, one of the biggest sporting properties in the world, you know? And I felt like I enjoyed the men's race, but I wasn't impressed with the package particularly. I wasn't impressed with the the scale of it. It didn't feel like it was revved up on site. And there was something about the like you say, they say they had to use the production crew who come with the circuit. So there wasn't much of a back and forth or experience behind it. But there was something about the camera shots, mate, that just
They make it look slow. This is what I think.
yeah, it
It
looked
makes it look slow. And I don't want to think this is purely negative. And I don't, I'm like, we're doing, I'm just so nervous saying this because I know that people fucking get the shits. There are some positives. there's a particular spot on the course where they would have a car, and you could see it from another angle where there's a truck with a flatbed and a guy on a camera who would ride along next to the riders. That
Yeah.
shot was fucking sexy. That was a fantastic shot. And there was another point on the course, and I don't know whether it was a camera on a wire or if it was a camera on a drone, but there was this shot, and I think it was Sam Long they were filming, I think, or it might have been Magnus, but it was this shot following, similar to what we saw Max Verstappen and that drone do in the F1, like this shot, and I thought, God, how good's this? Like these are the sort of camera angles I want to see.
Mm. And there was another shot as well where they'd captured the curve of the circuit, and it was quite a wide shot, and I enjoyed that, watching the athletes sweep around the bend. I enjoyed that. But yeah, it didn't feel hugely high quality and polished while the race was going on.
Mm.
I don't know what it is. It feels like I've seen cycling races in the past done on F1 tracks, and they always feel very underpowered and lost in the size of this venue that's designed to have these cars going hundreds of miles an hour on them, and then you see somebody on a bike, and it doesn't quite give the same impression of speed.
Another thing I struggle to understand is every time we seem to show swim racing these days, the resolution's really low. And again, watching the highlights package again, the swim is like it's like super low quality. And I don't know whether that's because it is a drone and I'm not sure what it is, but I'm really getting frustrated with how swims are. And I appreciate like the angles were cool, but just actually watching the vision was so low quality that you can't actually really tell who's who. Just like I said, it's these little things, but like the graphics. I think the graphics package was poor. We've got these sort of reactive splits, and that's sort of it.
I mean, there was a page, wasn't there, you could go to that had
put it on the screen.
graph. Yeah, I know, but I was getting there. I'm getting there. There was like a data page you could go to, which had a load of data and graphics available to people who were watching. Very, very useful when you're watching a program, to be able to look down at your phone and see where the splits are, where the gaps are, etc. Transfer some of that onto the screen. We want to be able to see what position people are in. You want to be able to see what the gaps are, splits are between them. Who's moving faster than the other person? If you can get that data on the screen, if you know the pace that they're going, you could use colors to say, well, he's in third place at the moment, but he's highlighted green because he's actually moving faster than second and first place. But the gap is this, the pace is that. Has he got time to catch them? Simple things like that.
I think, yeah, look, there's been a lot of stuff that's come out this week around the actual broadcast, the package, the graphics. I think we've said this at numerous races, like, it feels like to me, and the biggest issue I suppose I have with the broadcast now, I'm just talking about the broadcast because there's other things I'm not willing to give them as big as a pass on. But I feel like it's like we started here and it got here, and it's sort of been creeping better and better. And like I think Jan Frodeno, fucking phenomenal. What a good decision to put Jan Frodeno in commentary. Like wonderful.
Yeah.
So but then this one, it really feels like a step backwards to me. And it's like, yeah, camera angles. You said the wide, fucking get the camera in close so we can't tell that it's a big empty space. That I think we know that Dabu is the swim sponsor, Canyon's the bike sponsor. I don't know if they got a run sponsor. I maybe saw one piece of branding around but the rest of it was just these big empty things. And I need to also like hand up admit this, and it's probably a reason why I'm a bit more negative on this broadcast is immediately after watching the T100, I watched the F1, like immediately after. And
It didn't
it's
feel branded though, did it? The whole
no
place didn't feel branded. It didn't feel like someone had gone in with a marketing eye and an eye
look and
for the
feel, the
aesthetics of
look
a
and feel
sporting
of the
event.
event, which is important.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. For the aesthetics of a sporting event, to be like, right, in this world where we're broadcasting a live sporting event, there are things that people expect, and those are huge advertising boards and things happening, and there didn't seem to be anything like that. It felt a bit like a local triathlon.
One of the problems as well I find with a venue like this is, and I've said this on, you need landmarks. As a viewer, you need to be able to watch the race and work out from the footage where they are. I think Milwaukee was an exceptional. The run in particular, the bike not so much, but the run in Milwaukee, you could see it and you knew where they were, and
Yeah.
they could
Yeah.
cut to when Taylor Knibb was running, and they'd cut to the other, and you knew, and you could work out, and you had roughly the gaps without needing to see the graphics, because you're like, okay, well, that Taylor was at that point. Like, you could do a bit of that mind maths yourself. Whereas this one, I had no fucking idea where anybody was at any point. I couldn't tell. I still to this day couldn't actually tell you how the course got. I know the run was a big circle, but that bike, I've no fucking idea. Like, I couldn't watch it and actually work out who was where. And plus, as I said, the fact that there were athletes who were lapped were in it suddenly. So you've got, Alistair and Matisse off the front, and then suddenly there's four athletes around him. You're going, what's happened? It's like, oh no, they're lapped athletes. And you're like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
So I just think that, oh, and again, look, let's
Like the
not
rule on
pretend
the
here.
bike where the lapped athlete had to drop 50 meters behind the athletes that had passed them. That's a good rule. It gets
No,
them
it's
out the
not.
way.
Fuck them off. Get out. If you're lapped, get off the course. I don't, and again, people are like, oh, it's not sustain. I don't give a shit about sustainability. I don't care about, oh, it's not fair on the athletes. This isn't about fucking fair. This is about a race that is good to watch on television. And that is not good to watch on television. And I've said this and I'll say it again. I think it changes the race dynamic. If athletes know that they can potentially get lapped out, the strategy changes. Those people at the front, Alistair and that might go, fuck, we could lap Sam Long out here. If we really fucking drill this swim and crush that first lap on the bike, we could eliminate him. And suddenly, and again, that would have sucked for the broadcast, right? But also, then you've got Sam Long going, oh shit, I need to actually fucking drill this swim. We might have then seen
And you've got the
Sam.
jeopardy of that moment as well.
But I just even like forget all that stuff. I just don't like the visibility of it. It's confusing.
Yeah.
And especially with then you've got the stats and you're like, well, hang on, who the fuck is it? It's messy. And they did it last year at the races. I know that if you got lapped in Singapore and stuff, you're off. Just it's just got to be the rule. It's just got to be the rule. Broadcast
So,
specifically, what other little things do you are there? I don't have a lot more to say about the actual broadcast itself. I think the
no,
thing,
no. I mean, look, and look, we are both great supporters of the PTO. We know a lot of the people at the PTO. We know that they know a
yeah,
lot of this already. You know,
yeah,
their
exactly.
conversations in the
They wouldn't
background are
have
going
been
to be
happy
like,
with
right,
it. They wouldn't have
we
been
need to
happy with
sharpen.
this. Yeah.
We need to sharpen this up. We need to sharpen this up. We need to sharpen this up, and things need to improve. So, we're not teaching them suck eggs. Jesus, two blokes on a podcast. I think we need to talk about the big issue though, and this is the issue that I slept through and woke up to fucking hundreds of messages in that WhatsApp group that I started reading through and then just sent you a message and said, summarize what happened.
I can
Because,
summarize what happened. The fucking lights
yeah.
went out. It was pitch black. It was fucking pitch like it was black. Like I've never. I am going to sound harsh here, and it's because this women's race, the men's race was fine. The men's race was an acceptable. People saying, I loved it. It was great. You've got fucking Stockholm syndrome. The people who are commenting saying this is the best. I'm so grateful we got. Fucking pull your heads in. You need to go see somebody because you have got Stockholm syndrome as a triathlon fan that you think that this is the thing we've been working towards for this ain't it at the moment. I'm not. Everybody knows this. I don't. If you don't, you're delusional. You know it. You just don't want to say it. The women's race was. It made me embarrassed to be a triathlon fan. That is the truth, and it is not because of the athletes. God bless them. They showed up. They did their part. It was dark, mate. It was dark.
Yeah.
And then the commentary went out on YouTube for at least half an hour. And what you had was the possible single most boring thing I've ever seen from sport in my life. People riding around in the dark in silence. It was fucked. Like it is genuinely, I cannot emphasize it. All I thought of, because I had told a lot of my family, my friends, the people I'm always trying to convince that triathlon is this great sport. I'm like, guys, this race is on. Watch it. Like, just tune in. They've promised it's going to be this new. And I was just thinking, they're going, I am hoping that nobody listened to me. I'm hoping that nobody I know is watching this because they will fucking roast me for this. It was disgraceful. And because I know you've reached out to PTO, you've had communication, and watching watching the highlights package, and I sent this. I paused the broadcast and I took a photo of this, and I want to make this point. Is you can see on the broadcast that they have got temporary lights set up on the course. Temporary lights. These aren't permanent. I've got the photo. That means they must have known that the light was going to be an issue. So they have taken steps to try and remedy the issue. But it looks like they've gone, oh, that'll do. Oh, that'll do. That's good. It's so typically triathlon. And it was
Yeah. So the broadcast audio cut out completely.
completely.
Did it cut out completely for everybody who's watching the race, or was that a regional thing?
I think it was a YouTube thing because I've been told that it was still fine on Eurosport, which
Okay.
baffles me though, because you would assume, with my limited understanding of technology though, that it all cut. I'm assuming the video feed, the camera feed, everything that's used would go into one feed and then they would distribute it via the different streaming platforms, right? But apparently it was just a
Yeah.
YouTube thing.
I had, because I wasn't watching it on YouTube, I wasn't watching it on Eurosport. I had been given a regional login for the PTO website. So I had that broadcast, which wasn't available in Europe, but I could get into it with a passcode. So I had no adverts, which I was loving
Were there
because
ads?
everybody else in Europe who were watching it on Eurosport had a load of adverts.
Did they? Not on YouTube. There were no ads in the broadcast I was watching,
So
which
you
was
had
good.
no ads either. That's good. But I think if I'd stayed watching, I don't think my audio would have cut out
Okay.
because I think it would have carried on. But just because you got audio doesn't make a dark race any more exciting. Now, when they said it was going to be a night race, for all intents and purposes, and it was going to be racing under the lights, my head instantly goes to the F1 Singapore, where they've
Exactly.
got those do not fuck about mega lights that are like billions of fucking lumens that just essentially create
Daylight.
daylight.
Yep.
And you're like, because they've got to, because the cars are going at fucking 200 something miles an hour or whatever. So they've got to be there on it. And that light, it doesn't have the sense of a night race. The only sense of a night race you get is it's dark around and it looks cool. But you've got within that tunnel of racing, it's fucking pimp bright because they need it to be bright for safety reasons. I would argue that a triathlon with people on push bikes also needs it to be that light for
Oh, no.
safety reasons.
That's a big thing I've wondered about is the duty of care. Like the lawyer in me is going, hang on, I feel like that's
But see, we're looking at it from an audience perspective. Like, god damn it, get some proper fucking lights in there,
no,
And
yeah, I turned it off. Like I turned the race off. I stopped watching the women's race and used the tracker.
yeah, I got a message from India and it said it got a bit dark on the bike. She had to chuck her visor off so she couldn't see some of the corners.
That's
Brackets,
fucked.
it was tinted though, closed brackets, but it was fine on the run, she said.
Because the run was the outside lap. From my understanding, is it's not the outside lap that was the issue. It's that part where they're on the inside with the
Yeah.
corners that was dark. Kind of,
On a bike,
on a
you
bike.
know, you fall off a bike, you can kill yourself if you bang your head in the wrong place. Anyway, you would I don't know what the conversations were or weren't behind the scenes. I don't know, but it has to be illuminated properly. It has to ignore the sound issue. That was just a fuck up, whatever. Any sporting event, the sound could go out. It's a really unfortunate it happened on the first one, whatever. But illuminate the fucking race course.
This is my biggest struggle with it, right? Is it reeks of surely you fucking check. Like
Yeah, check.
surely you
The night
check.
before,
Turn the
the
lights
week
on.
before, like you're like, if you're not going to check the month before, where you've got time to do something about it, which is, you're going in there, you're arranging a contract to have a race at this venue. Part of your due diligence is to go, well, that race is going to start at this time, so it's going to be dark then. We need to make sure the course is going to be illuminated. I realize the cars you normally have racing on here have headlights,
But do they have
but
headlights?
I don't know.
I only
Cars,
know
I'm
this, and
assuming.
I only know this from the Pixar movie Cars because he talks about how the headlights are stickers.
All right.
Don't know if
But
that's a real thing.
whatever.
Yeah.
I'm ex I'm like your due diligence at that point is to find out whether it's an appropriate venue for a bike race at night. But even if you haven't done any of that, it's race weekend. The night before, someone must have gone down there
Turn
and
on
been
the
like,
lights. Just turn them all on.
fucking dark here, isn't it, boys?
But this is what I talk about this is why I talk about the fact that I could see that they put temporary light in it. It tells me they knew that there wasn't adequate lighting, so they have taken steps to remedy that. If there was just no lights and they said, "Oh, look, we thought it would be fine," you'd get it, right? But the fact that you can obviously see on the broadcast that they have put temporary lighting in.
Yeah, those lights that you sent me a picture of, they're just the sort of lights that you
Go to
see them on a
Kennards
construction
Hire.
site at
You
night.
go to the local like tradie hire place.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you can hire those.
that's what I mean. This is why I can't accept that
But
it's.
but that's not super fucking lights,
I
is it?
know
That's not those fucking.
it was. Look, I don't think. I still think there's more issues about this whole thing than just the fact that, but it was bad. Like it was a really
Yeah.
bad. Like I feel bad for the PTO, right? Because they have come out and they have set, as I said earlier, they have set the expectation so high, and I just don't think they are. If we were here where we were last year and it was, oh, it's another PTO tour event, so I'd be more willing to give them the pass. But it is the fact that no, we are going to make this one of the major broadcasts
Mm.
sports products.
Yeah, like they were using traffic cones a lot and things to like, but put hoarding up with branding on it.
Put the brand, mate. Yeah, 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 yeah. Now, this goes to a bigger problem, and this is something that I sort of want to move away. It's part of it, right? And I don't know that I'm having Lucy Charles and Reece-Barclay coming on next week to discuss all this, and I hope that they have some more insight for us. But I wonder, looking at the timeline of events here, and I don't have a crystal ball. All I can do is assume on the bits and pieces that we've been heard. Sam, I know you said we can ask you. It doesn't feel appropriate, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. I'm analyzing the situation. We know that one of the reasons the PTO delayed their announcement of their race series and venues was because they actually struggled to find locations for the races, or it wasn't as easy as they originally thought. Even when they announced the event, or the series, they hadn't been able to confirm two of the events. One of those has now been confirmed. The last one hasn't been confirmed. So we still don't actually have the full race series confirmed. But looking at the schedule, Miami is a clash endurance event. We then have Singapore, which is the PTO event, which was fantastic, wonderful race. Disappointed I'm not going to be there next year. We've also got San Francisco's Escape from Alcatraz, not their event. PTO London, Challenge London, not their event. Three of those races in their series are not PTO events. They are working with a pre-existing events company or event to do the event. And I wonder if that was a pivot that the PTO had to take because they couldn't actually lock down the venues that they wanted for themselves. And that's why I'm thinking, or I suppose the big. This didn't to me seem like a PTO event. This seemed to me like a clash event, and I do not think very highly of clash events. And that's what this felt like to me. This felt like a clash event. I know I got in a bit of trouble from Challenge recently about saying stuff about their races. And I know that clash is technically separate, but this is sort of what my thoughts is that this is what I expect of a clash event. This is not what I expect of a PTO event. And it tells me that maybe this was a bit rushed or a bit like it's not their ideal situation. I don't think the PTO wanted to be doing this because we hear a lot about how their whole thing is like, we're going to take this incredible series to like, must see destinations. Don't even call it Challenge Miami for fuck's sake. It was in the middle of the fucking everyone I've spoken to said it was not Miami. It was like 40 miles away from Miami in the middle of the swamps. Like not a destination event. No, no. You hear Challenge Miami, you expect it to be, going down the main street. Same with Las Vegas. Notice that they've changed it to Lake Las Vegas because it ain't going down the strip. Like it's Singapore is in Singapore. Ibiza is in Ibiza. London will be in London. It just feels like they've had to really sort of. I feel bad for them because I don't think this first season is going the way they want it to, and this must have been like you can just
Race one.
imagine it wouldn't be going
Singapore
well.
is another chance to shine, though, isn't it? Because it is in the right place. Um, and they will have taken lessons from this race.
And they'll control the
Another
broadcast.
thing that a lot of people have sent me messages about was the duration of the broadcast
This is a good point.
being quite as long as it was.
It's an Ironman.
Hey,
It's an Ironman.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like actually the way they do it, and again, I love the fact that the women and the men get separate races to shine. But this broadcast is as long as an Ironman broadcast. Back when they used to do the men and women on the same day. It's too long. It's too long.
Yeah. 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 There must be a way of doing it so it's slightly different. But on an environment like that, on a course like that, you can't really have the men and women racing at the same time, can you?
I just I just this cannot be how they anticipated launching their flagship new product, right? Like the hype, the build up, the fact that everything was delayed, and we have half the field not even show up, even more don't
Yeah.
finish.
And even on even small things like it being the first race of the new series that's been launched, and you're having to use a like a an external production team that you haven't worked with before that's specific to that venue rather than your own pre-briefed on the same page as you production entity or whatever they're going to use for the rest of the races. That can't have been ideal.
Now, here's another point I want to talk about, and again, this is just my point of view, right? But we are in an unprecedented territory for the sport of triathlon where we have a world-class field racing in March. This doesn't happen in long course racing. Normally, the big events at the end of the year, we heard a lot of athletes saying they won't race because they weren't quite ready, and a lot of the athletes who were there saying, "Oh, I'm not fit enough yet." With this narrative, with the fact that we are seeing such a long season for the athletes this year, do you think it is wise or fair to start the race in such conditions? Because we know it was so hot that's why we saw athletes in ambulances, DNFs. For the longevity of the athletes and the fact that we are talking about them doing something unprecedented, and the fact that the actual venue didn't fucking matter because it was in the middle of nowhere. It wasn't Miami. Do you think they should have put the first race in a place that was in such extreme conditions? 35 degrees Celsius. They said on the ground at the racetrack it was more like 45 degrees. Do you think is that a smart way to start the season?
Um, I've got no problem with extreme elements and things being part of a triathlon race.
Okay.
That is for me the least problematic thing. I think if the broadcast had been brilliant, if the venue had really accommodated the race in a way that
We wouldn't be
made it
worried
look
about it.
special,
Yeah.
you wouldn't, I would be like, oh, it was hot.
Yeah.
But because it was a bit of a dull setting and it looked like an empty thing, add on top of that it's boiling fucking hot and you're just like, oh, it just looks like an unpleasant place to be. Fuck.
Yeah. It was grim. Like, I don't want to keep,
If
I
it's
don't,
42 degrees and you're racing up the side of an Alp, I'm like, fuck,
yeah,
this is
that's,
cool.
that's a good point. Yeah. Look, I don't want to keep going on about this much. And
No, no,
I know they know. I know they know. Like we are not saying anything they don't know. We are again, don't
bring on
comment.
Singapore. Let's,
Yeah, we want this to
another
work,
roll of the
guys.
dice.
Yeah, we are ready for this to be successful. It just wasn't. It was a bad first start. But again, I know that they take on feedback, that they would be looking. They are their own biggest critics. Hopefully this inspires some real positive change. And we by the end of it we see something that's really wonderful. So yeah. Let us know your thoughts. Again, are we wrong? Did you think it was the best thing you've ever seen? Me telling you you've got Stockholm syndrome bother you? YouTube, that's the place to go. But
Come and shout at us. We love it.
oh, I love it. I love it so much. Um, that's it. Miami done. Congratulations to India and Magnus on their wins. The points, 35 points each, 28. Yeah, I'm looking forward to chatting with Lucy and Reese next week about this. Yeah, it's gonna be a good chat. I'm gonna be asking some hard questions to them, I think, to be honest, because I'm very, very fascinated to hear from the athletes, what they sort of, because again, I think that's the thing I kind of feel bad for, right? And my last little thought, right, is that you've got these athletes who are killing themselves to get there, to be ready to race, to put on a show. Like they are doing their part. That, if you look at this as an agreement where the athletes have to do their part and the PTO has to do their part, I feel like the PTO has fallen short and it's not fair on the athletes this time. But they'll learn. They'll learn. We know they will.
And it will improve. It will improve.
The last little thing we want to talk about this week is the changes to the Ironman rules. Now, I don't know how deep you want to go with this, mate, because I can pull up the rules if you like, or at least I can pull up an article that Try 24/7 put about the rules. But the basics of it are they're changing the rules around aerodynamics on the bike, what people can and can't do.
Yes.
A lot of the major change.
According to
Yeah, you
yeah,
go for it.
according to Ironman, protective screens, fuselages, fairings, or any other devices or materials, including duct tape, added or blended into the structure with the intent to reduce or having the effect of reducing resistance to air penetration are prohibited. Additionally, aerodynamic assemblies and protuberances on the tube head or elsewhere are prohibited, with any athlete found in violation of the rule disqualified.
Plus, there's also around the bottles and things down the shirt. That was another rule that they sort of changed. You can't put things in your
Yeah.
calf socks.
Skipper can't be happy. He's Jimmy Fairing, isn't he?
I don't know. Joe has never used the fair in his life, mate. He's simply he gets very thirsty on the bike, so requires additional hydration. It's purely a
Ah, fair
hydration thing,
enough.
mate. Not
Fair
a
enough.
fairing at all.
So you had
But
Magnus with a bottle down his shirt at the weekend, didn't you?
which it was
Lay low loves a bottle down the front.
like the Magnus thing is interesting because they were talking a lot on the broadcast about how they had actually with the like PTO had also introduced World Triathlon had introduced this rule, and they made an exception for this event where you could take it from an aid station, but you had to also get rid of it by the end of the bike, and it was actually meant
Yeah.
to be for cooling.
And you had to be drinking from it and
Yeah,
stuff.
which wasn't the case. Like, come, which wasn't the case at all. But the fascinating thing with this Ironman rule, and I don't know. Again, I don't know whether this applies to suddenly everybody, but there are certain bikes out there, for example, like that Coup bike that Rico Bogan rides, that has that fairing looking thing on the top of the top tube. You've got like, I mean, even my aero bike you can see there has got the water bottle between the arms. Now, I sort of struggle with this, the wording of this is because in the past you can do it if it's for hydration stuff, right? Like most TT bikes these days have some integrated hydration system at the front end of the bike. If that now, my understanding of the rule, if that provides any sort of aerodynamic advantage, you can't actually use it. So even if it's like that's clearly hydrate, I don't have that on my bike because it's going to make me go faster. In fact, I think it's pretty ugly to be honest. But I like having when I'm riding my TT, I like just having the drink there. But does that now mean I can't use that? Does that like it's too vague? These rules are so vague. Again,
Yeah,
Joe,
there is a vagueness to it because I when I raced and when I race again, I like to have a bottle between my aero bars.
yeah,
Um, that and is there going to be a difference between because some bikes come with like a bladder between,
this is what I mean.
that either straw comes up. Is that okay? But having one of those bottles where you
Yeah,
Velcro the
yeah, the
thing that
torpedo
holds the bottle,
mounts.
is that not okay? And what's the difference between someone you could argue, no, 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 that's predominantly there for hydration. It's not as per the rule wording you've put in, it's not there to increase aerodynamics. That's a byproduct of me wanting to hydrate myself. Where does the argument stand? Where's the cut and dry black and whiteness here?
And what's the purpose of it? This is what I want to come down to because I saw a lot of people. Let's use Joe as an example with those the bottles over his arms because I know that's one thing that a lot of people are talking about is I saw a lot of people saying that it's a safety issue. It's a safety issue. You shouldn't. It's a safe to think that an athlete like Joe hasn't tested and made sure. Like I don't understand how if a safety issue is you need to take your arms out of the aero bars and put them on the base bars to access the brakes. How does something sitting above your forearm cause a safety issue? I just feel
Yeah.
like these are so I look at this and I can't something's going to have to change. It is such a poorly worded, ambiguous written thing that it just ain't going to cut it. And I just want to know the purpose because I personally think that there are much bigger issues in the sport that they need to be. And if this is because we've seen a number of exceptional results and performances that defy logic, it ain't because of the fucking water bottles on the front of their bikes or the things down their shirts. I think there are much more significant problems in the sport of triathlon that are causing some fucking mind-blowing things. That's what needs to be
Mm.
addressed, not what fucking water bottles people are using.
Yeah, agreed. And I agree. I think you could have put something in there that's a bit more like, look, you know, stop taping up your fucking error bars or something like that,
Well,
where
that's
you
I saw somebody commented on Twitter about this sort of thing. Like you look at those mono bars now, like that Joe has, that Magnus has, these, the one piece
yeah.
extensions. That's that's clear. Like that's an air. Like that's a fairing, right? Like
Oh
this
yeah,
is
definitely. And I would have it in the rules that if you're going to have something like that, it's got to be made for that purpose and you can't just do it at home.
I just don't understand the point. One of the good things about triathlon has always been the fact that it's a fucking free for all. Have at it.
Agreed.
So
Agreed.
to go back to this, it's like, what are we becoming the UCI with their fucking bullshit? It, I just don't get it. I hate this, and I think something's gonna happen. I'm personally
You
gonna contact them about this because it needs to change the rules.
have you ordered yourself one of those big fucking helmets?
Mate, I actually am the one that model. Like as you can see, my forehead is quite large, so I was the inspiration.
It was an accident, wasn't it? There was a bespoke helmet they made to fit your head in, and they were like, "Shit, it's really aerodynamic. We'll make loads of them."
I'm getting to that point where I'm going to get, that you see, it's funny actually, where I ride, I do this ride on, it's called the M7. It's a cycle path, 40, fantastic. I love it. But there's this bloke I see on it sometimes, and he's got one of those, it's like, it must be a recumbent bike, I'm assuming, but he's got the capsule around it. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
that,
yeah.
and I see this guy going, and I'm thinking, at one point, are we going to see someone fucking spend 3 minutes
Yeah.
in transition, fucking taking their bike off the thing, connecting this thing, hopping in, getting the people to fucking put him in, and then just go. Because I remember a few years ago, I was at another place I ride. It's the regatta, it's a 5K loop around the lake, and I do a lot of TT work there. And one day, this guy passed me on a recumbent bike, and I'm like, oh, well, I can't be having that now, can I? I'm gonna catch this guy, and he lapped me. Like I tried to catch up to him, and with me trying to catch him on my TT bike going 40 odd K an hour, he fucking lapped me. He put 5 kilometers into me in the space, and I was like, God damn, those bikes fucking move. But
Yeah.
yeah. Good old Iron Man. Every time we think they're doing something good, it's like, just reminding us how fucked you guys are sometimes. Uh, it's good, isn't it? But we'll see. We'll see how this shakes out. Because again, like Challenge Roth had the rules last year around what you can and can't do. And I said, World Triathlon, just doing what World Triathlon does. But it surprises me that the Ironman have
Knowing triathlon, it will be case by case,
people they like,
if
people
someone
they don't
does.
like, completely up
Yeah. And
to.
also if yeah,
I just,
I can't imagine them banning the industry. There is an industry around hydration bottles on the front of bikes. It makes a lot of money for a lot of companies. I can't see them banning that.
how do they put this out without having eyes over it that go, this is too ambiguous, this is too vague, this won't stand up, this causes this problem. What about this? Like, does nobody who works in Ironman think about it as an athlete? Like, does nobody actually think about the practical implications of these rules? I just, that's the thing I can't understand is because I was like, well, that's a problem. What about this? 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 And they must be like, fuck, we didn't think about that.
Yeah.
How? Surely you vet this stuff internally enough times to make sure you iron out all those problems before you fucking put it out publicly. You'd think.
You would think.
Anyway,
You would think. It feels like it's been a negative episode this week, mate.
I know. Yeah, we get told we're too negative all the time. It's brutal.
We do. We do. But
I
I'm
want
so up for this T100 series. My enthusiasm hasn't waned.
same,
They can do
100%.
it. They can do it.
They can do it. And again, Singapore. Singapore was I loved Singapore last time. Like genuinely, I think that it's what we want. It's got hills, it's technical, it's hot. It's what we want. It just don't go back to the speedway. The speedway is a good in concept, but it ain't working. If it
No.
is, I mean, don't work with the Daytona camera crews because they're fucking shit. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, let's do
Do it in the
Miami,
day.
not Miami,
Do it in the day.
Singapore. Doing the day. Yeah, get those lights sorted. Let's get those
Get
lights
those
sorted.
fucking lights.
Let's get those fucking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you see? I did put up. Oh man, what a fucking comedy of errors. Like really, just it's funny, right? Like you have to laugh. But I would highly recommend the Chris article. And I know a lot of people sort of throwing shade at him saying, oh, it's a conflict, whatever. I genuinely think, Chris, well, for the T100 has been very, very vocal about what triathlon needs to make it, a broadcast package. And I think that if nothing else, we can say that Super Tri is well produced. And I know people talk about the shit Neon race. Even in Neon, where there's nothing, I still think it was more entertaining than this, genuinely. So anyway, Jimbo, if people want to yell at us in person, and they can do that in our WhatsApp group or Facebook, what do they need to? All that stuff you said at the end of the episode. Take it away.
Thanks for listening to Talking Triathlon. If you want to support the show, jump on at patreon.com/Talking Triathlon. If you want to follow Tim, he's at T414 on Instagram, and I'm at bale.james85 on Instagram. Find us across social networks at Talking Triathlon on Instagram, at Talk Triathlon on Twitter. If you join up to the Patreon group, we will give you access to the WhatsApp group, the social groups, and the bonus episode each month. The WhatsApp group is brilliant. It's sustained me through the racing this weekend, and it's great to have people to talk to and bounce things off.
I agree. Jimbo, a pleasure as always. As I said, I'm sitting down with Reese and Lucy next week. I'm looking forward to that chat. You're interviewing or you have interviewed Martin Van Riel?
No, not yet. Not yet. I've been away, so I'm gonna line up an interview with Martin Van Riel in the next few days, and we're gonna drop that in at some when.
Yeah, I'm away in a couple of weeks. I think we'll probably try to time it for that. But yeah, cool. Jimbo, thank you very much. Guys, thanks for listening. YouTube.com is where you can give us your thoughts about everything. I think that there might be a few comments this week. Yeah. All right, guys. Talk to you later.
Cheerio.